Part 94. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 931. By Dallin, this is not good, who believes that the test paper you took is real. Besides, Shanbao and the others are going to take the exam, and you still sell them. Isn't this increasing the strength of their opponents? Manbao said, this is why you are narrow-minded. Why is this booklet so expensive? It is because people who buy it don't want others to see it again, and those who sell it will get cheaper if they have more books. The price of selling 10 copies of the book is the same as the papers that sell one volume are the same, so they are naturally willing to copy only one volume. But reading is not only about reading books, but also about the people who read them. Otherwise, all the books in the world are the same. How can some people get something from reading and become great Confucians, while others are still students after studying for a lifetime? Manbao said, so, the key is not in the brochure, but in the person who reads the brochure. Bai Dallin asked, what if there is someone who is stronger than Shanbao and the others, and he is above Shanbao from reading the brochure? Originally, he is still behind Shanbao, but after reading it, he is ahead of Shanbao. That is also his ability, which shows that he is a malleable talent, Manbao said, and I trust my juniors. Bai Dallin, but he doesn't believe his brother. Manbao went home with the brochure and handed it directly to Mr. Zhuang. There are only questions in it, and you need to find the answer by yourself, but Mr. Zhuang has taught books for so many years, is it rare for him? He only read it once, and not only the answers in the booklet came out, but also the answers in his heart. After thinking for a while, he said, Manbao, I remember that you have recorded a lot of interpretations in the Analects of Confucius. Forget it, you bring the book, I'll hook up a few articles for Erlang, you explain all the explanations to him, pass him the test first, and teach him what he doesn't understand. Manbao answered. He said it was a few articles, but there were 16 articles selected, and Bai Erlang looked at it in a daze. He said, Sir, you might as well let me recite the Analects of Confucius again. Mr. Zhuang stopped writing and said, that's not bad, how much do you remember? Bai Erlang wanted to sew his mouth shut. He had memorized the whole article before, but that was several years ago. As time went by, and he had memorized a lot in the past 2 years, he inevitably got confused. Of course, he still remembered most of them. Mr. Zhuang understood after seeing his appearance. He handed the circled textbook to Manbao, and said, supervise him to memorize it, the text he memorized several years ago, review it again, he should be able to memorize it. Important it's MOE, some words and sentences are difficult to remember, please help him. Take note of Manbao. Mr. Zhuang knew that the student was always smart, and he had even bet on his questions, so he said with a smile, what words and sentences do you think will pass the test? You should focus on teaching him. Manbao nodded again and again, expressing his understanding. After assigning the tasks, Mr. Zhuang took the brochure and thought about it, and beckoned Bai Shandao, let's go to the garden to talk about strategies, and don't disturb them. Bai Shan responded. Bai Erlang, who was left behind, hurriedly said, Sir, I also want to take a test of strategy and theory. The test papers for both of us are the same. Don't I listen? Mr. Zhuang stopped, turned around and smiled at him, don't panic, although the test papers for you are the same, but the emphasis can be different. Bai Shan's scriptures and MOE are not a problem, the teacher wants him. What we are fighting for is a place in Qiuazixiu. You have only studied policy theory for half a year, and you have just learned how to solve problems. You can do it casually. I will tell you the rules when I become a teacher. As long as the writing is not messy, you can do anything else. But your scriptures and MOE, but it must be good, so maybe you can compete for a place in the Taixio, and you must strive to get into the 4 schools. Mr. Zhuang pointed to Manbao and said, Your senior sister is enough to guide you in these two things. You should learn from your senior sister first. Bai Erlang turned his head to meet Man Bao's eyes, and Man Bao smiled at him. His eyebrows and eyes were curved, so cute. But Bai Erlang trembled, feeling shivering. Seeing this, Bai Dalan couldn't help but said, "Sir, why don't you let me come?" Mr. Zhuang glanced at him and said with a smile, "Let Man Bao come, you watch from the sidelines." He paused and then explained, "You can't suppress this kid." Bai Erlang said with a bitter face, "Sir, I'm very good. It's good to be good, but I can't help being distracted." Bai Dalan picked up the textbook to instruct his younger brother while Man Bao went out to talk to Lao Zhou's family, and when he lowered his head, he saw his eyes blank in a daze. Bai Dalan. "Arrow, what are you thinking?" Bai Erlang ignored him. Bai Dalan stretched out his hand and waved in front of his eyes, and when he came back to his senses, he frowned and asked, "What are you thinking?" Bai Erlang shook his head honestly, "Forgot, brother, once you scared me, I forgot what I was thinking just now." Bai Dalan, hurry up and endorse. Bai Erlang took a peek outside, and seeing that there were only two of them in the study, he hugged his head boldly and said, "But I can't carry on the recitation, brother, I'm so worried, let's rest for a while, okay? I don't want to recite the book at all, it's been a long time since I just recited it. Do you remember everything?" "It's almost there," Man Bao said it very carefully. "It is very detailed, sometimes explaining the meaning." Bai Dalan thinks it is better than what he said. No wonder Mr. Zhuang likes this junior sister so much. Seeing that his elder brother didn't force him to endorse the book for the time being, Bai Erlang took advantage of the situation to change the subject, looked out and asked, "What is Man Bao talking to Tou and the others?" Bai Dalan glanced at him and said, "It's called Lizhong. Have you forgotten about being chased all over the yard yesterday? When going out, the big head and the second head are not happy to be called by their nicknames anymore. They have solemnly declared that they will be called by their big names, so that they will not be underestimated when they go out, and they will not be looked down upon when they are looking for work. Be a kid." But Bai Erlang couldn't change it for a while, and was chased by two people all over the yard yesterday. After Bai Dalan had finished training him, he said, "It's about copying papers and selling them." He and Man Bao grew up together. Bai Dalan didn't explain in detail, but Bai Erlang understood immediately, and he shouted, "No, she has to copy the booklet we bought before selling it. No, this Bai Shan and I spent money to buy the booklet, and she has to count me in." Bai Dalan, who thought he would not agree, was choked for a moment, and he swallowed the words for a long time. He said angrily, "Father didn't miss you food and clothing, and gave you money. How can you fix it? Are you thinking about making money? You are going to enter the examination room in 2 days, can you concentrate on studying?" "Brother, it's not about making money, it's about being happy, understand, counting the happiness of money." "I don't understand," Bai Dalan said angrily. "I knew that Manbao gave 5 taels of money for the booklet, Shanbao gave 3 taels, and I made up the rest of the money. Aren't I not free to return it to you?" "I'll return it to you when I'm free at night, but don't give her the 5 taels of Manbao, she has made money. I plan to clear all the debts on the 8th of this month, so as not to delay until 2020, so I will make more changes on the 8th. If there are any gaps, I will fill them up as soon as possible on the 9th and 10th. I will not add them for the time being more, please understand. So it's time to say good night again." Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 932. Man Bao took the time to copy the 2 booklets. The booklets are very small, and there are only questions in it, but no answers. In addition, she has a lot of experience in copying books and is fast, so she just finished copying when she had time. Yu and Liwei, Lejun copied a few volumes and sold them for 1 tael each in the morning. Policy theory and poems are more expensive, and each volume is 2 taels of silver. Zhou Lizhong was very skeptical. Sister, can such a small booklet be sold for a couple of dollars? Zhou Liwei nodded again and again, also expressing doubts. Could it be too deceitful? Man Bao, do you know how much I paid for these 2 booklets? The two shook their heads together. Man Bao said, 15 taels, this one is 5 taels, this one is 10 taels. Zhou Lizhong and Zhou Liwei, scholars can earn money really well. Man Baosai said to them, at least I have read the book for a few years, copy it quickly, remember, check it twice, make sure there are no typos, so as not to mislead your children. The two agreed, but Zhou Wulang asked, where can I sell it? Are those 40 or so people who need this booklet now? I don't know where they live. Man Bao said, ask Lu Gui, he must know. Saturday Lang was puzzled, why would he know? Zhou Lijun, because he went to inquire about it. This is what my aunt often said. If you know your enemy and yourself, you can win 100 battles. After 2 days, everyone will be your opponent. Of course, you need to know your opponent. Zhou Wulang felt something was wrong. Man Bao, isn't it good for us to sell this good thing to our opponent? And it's still cheap, we bought it at a big price. No way, this is a second-hand product. It's good if you can make money. Don't worry, I believe in Mr. He Shanbao, and I also believe in Bai Erlang and me. Even if we give the brochure to others, we will not fall behind. And they saw the 2 brochures earlier than others. There may only be 2 of them, but there are 5 of them, okay. The old Zhou's family was persuaded by her, so Zhou Lizhong led his younger siblings to copy the booklets, while Wu Wulang and Saturday Lang went to find Lu Gui. Man Bao turned back to the study, and as soon as he entered the study, he saw Bai Erlang talking happily with Bai Dalan. As soon as he saw Man Bao coming in, Bai Erlang immediately picked up the textbook on the table to cover his face, and Bai Dalan beside him. Have you memorized everything you just said? Bai Erlang nodded confidently and said, it's over. Man Bao pressed down the book in his hand and motioned him to recite it. Bai Erlang began to recite it. He had recited the Analects of Confucius before. Basically, he only needed to read it a few times, or if there was a reminder, he could recall it, so it was not difficult for him to recite. Man Bao continued to press the book, and asked, what does the Tao in the Taoqiancheng country mean? Bai Erlang paused for a moment and then said, being a guide means governing. Man Bao looked at him, Bai Erlang looked back at her with a guilty conscience, isn't it right? That's right, can you be more confident when you say it, don't you even believe it's right? Bai Erlang straightened his chest and said loudly, it means governance. Man Bao nodded slightly, and continued to ask, what does the time in making the people with time mean? Bai Dalan, who was sitting by the side, was useless in an instant. He looked at it for a while, couldn't help scratching his head, and simply got up and went back to his room, taking out the exam questions he had sorted out earlier. He copied down the policy theories and poems and prose topics of the major examinations over the years and sent them to Mr. Chuang, and only then began to ponder the scriptures and Moyi. When Man Bao's explanation came to an end, he said to Bai Erlang, let me tell you about the exam questions. Man Bao nodded, this can also be studied. Aunt Rong shouted outside, it's time to eat. Bai Erlang immediately looked out the window. Man Bao continued, we will still talk about Moyi in the evening, and you will memorize the book the next morning, so that the memory will be deeper. I will see if there is anything you don't remember, and I will circle it for you and copy it into a booklet for you. The day after tomorrow, you can wait and watch while going to the examination room. Seeing that no one paid attention to her for a long time, Aunt Rong yelled again, it's time for dinner. Bai Erlang looked up again. Bai Dalan was so heartbroken looking at it, he couldn't help but pat him, don't always think about eating, you have an exam in 2 days, do you know how difficult the 4 subjects are? Do you know what Taixu is? Academy. That is the highest institution in the country. Isn't the highest school in the country Kuazixu? Kuazixu is not counted. 99 of the 100 people in it are enlisted. If Kuazixu is included, then Hongguengan is the highest. Baidalan also has the arrogance of illiterati. Yes, he said seriously, Taishui is the highest school, and now you don't need to compete with thousands of people for dozens of places, but 47 people for the top 15 places. You know how lucky is it? Bai Erlang nodded blankly. Baidalan said, so, you have to work hard to know. Bai Erlang nodded in a daze, and then asked, but big brother, I was admitted to the Taixu, am I better than you? Baidalan was stunned for a moment, feeling overwhelmed looking at this miserable brother. Manbao on the side said, you think too much. If you really are a student in Taixu, you are better than those in Simon? There are also many students who have been favored, such as you, don't you just rely on Grace Shade. Otherwise, given another 2 years, he might not be able to pass the 4 subjects. Baidalan glanced at him arrogantly, and nodded in agreement with Manbao's words. Bai Erlang was angrily, so are you going to encourage me, or to discourage me? Manbao and Baidalan were silent for a while, and then they all said, you are still very good, if you work harder, you will definitely be better than the other 40 or so people. That's right. Everything we eat and drink is vain. Only reading is the most real thing. Let's read first. Aunt Rong outside had arranged the food, but still no one came out to eat. She pinched her waist and shouted, it's time to come out to eat, the food is going to be cold. Bai Erlang forced himself to lower his head, but he still couldn't help turning his head to look outside. Manbao also smelled the smell of meat. She took a deep breath, and looked at Baidalan, why don't we eat first, and continue after eating? Bai Erlang nodded repeatedly. Baidalan put down the book helplessly, well, I don't think you have the heart to read any more. Manbao ran out of the study room first, seeing that Mr. Zhuang and Bai Shan hadn't come yet, she knew they were still in the garden, so she simply ran to the garden to look for them. There were 2 masters and apprentices, one was fascinated by what he was talking about, the other was fascinated by what he was listening to, and he didn't hear Aunt Rong's words at all. After finally gathering all the people in the yard together, Aunt Rong retreated to the front yard for dinner. Mr. Zhuang said to the 4 disciples, Dalan, go back to sleep, you 3 should light the lamps tonight. Manbao led the 2 juniors to get up and bowed down, while Baidalan said, sir, I'll stay and help too. After thinking for a while, Mr. Zhuang nodded and said, all right, sometimes I need to find some books, and you can find them for me. You can also help me find the reference answers to the previous big exams and poems. Baidalan responded with a smile. Next update around 6 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 933. Everyone in the yard was busy. Mr. Zhuang was busy leading the students to review, Zhou Lizhong was busy leading his younger brothers and sisters to copy the booklets, and Lu Liaolang was in charge of cutting and binding the papers. Wu Wulang approached Lu Gui to find out about the other applicants, such as where they lived, their family background, and their age. He also took a small notebook and wrote it down in detail. Lu Gui glanced at his handwriting and said, Wulang, your handwriting is much better than your 4th brother's. Wu Wulang said proudly, that's natural. Among us brothers, my 6th son and I have the best calligraphy. After all, he and Lao Lu were the youngest and the most serious when they learned to read and read from Manbao. Lu Gui glanced at his dog-like handwriting, and said secretly, at least he can recognize the words, unlike Zhou Lang, who writes so fast that even he can't recognize them. Zhou Wulang wrote it down carefully, and then looked at the things written in the notebook, thinking about the taste. The people who have houses in the capital are rich people, right? Then those who live in these two inns are their people with money, and those who live in these inns are people from poor families. Lu Gui gave him a thumbs up. That's right, one of them is special. He said, I found out that there is a son who brought his clan brother to Beijing. His family is even worse. Even the travel expenses to Beijing are paid by his clan brother. I heard that he sold another Nzao quota to clan brother. Zhou Wulang opened his mouth wide, then gave a thumbs up and said, this young man is really powerful. What's his name? I must sell the brochure to him tomorrow. Lu Gui, he is so poor, can he afford it? Even the travel expenses to Beijing have been paid. Do you still care about these 3 taels of silver? Even if you save money, you have to buy it. Wu Wulang substituted his Yaomei, thinking that if it was his Yaomei, she would definitely be willing to spend this money. The mind can only be guessed by scholars. Wu Wulang was gearing up. Tomorrow we will go to this young master first. If we even buy him, will the other young masters be reluctant to spend this money? By the way, what is his name? Feng Chenxiang. Lu Gui has almost inquired about the remaining 46 young masters. Of course, it is not because he is so good that he can find out in a day, but because this is the most lively event in the capital this month. Your Majesty, compassionate meritorious officials, those who are not of high grade can also enter the Imperial College to study in the future. Recently, the people are full of praise, so it is not difficult to inquire about the family history of the 48 nominated princes. Of course, Bai Shan's life experience is not a secret, and Feng Zonping found out soon after returning home. After the meritorious officials who were summoned to Beijing, there was only one son named Bai. The younger one checked, and his father was the county magistrate of the former Shu County. He died because of the suppression of bandits. There was only one son, and he was the only one who entered Beijing this time. A cousin of the Feng Zonping asked, what's his cousin's name? The person who reported to the Imperial Academy is called Bai Cheng, and his name is Bai Shan. Feng Zonping turned his head and said to his 2 friends, it seems that it is him, and you still hide it from me. Since you know that my grandfather is the secretary of the Ministry of Punishment, is it difficult to find out? Yun Xingxuan ignored him, and asked the servant with a smile, how old are they and where do they live? Lu Gui was also gossip about other young masters, and said to Zhou Wulang, Mr. Feng's father is Feng Zheng. He used to be Sima in the army. He was the first to find out about the rebellion in the north in the first year of Dajhen. The letter was sent to Liangzhou, but it was a pity that the letter was lost when it was sent to someone else. His Majesty praised him for his righteousness. Mr. Feng is his son. I want to get married and marry a daughter-in-law. However, after I inquired about it, the most powerful ones should be Mr. Peng's hero, Mr. Lu Xiaofo and Mr. Renke. Lu Gui paused and said, do you know how old Mr. Renke is this year? Friday Lang, how old is it? 13 years old, Lu Gui said, you are 2 months younger than my young master. Wu Wulang couldn't understand, 2 months is very small. But my son is so powerful. He is younger than my son, and he looks quite powerful. You don't know, he is famous in Jinzhou. I heard that he is from the Lu family. Although he is a side branch, but what about Lu Shi? Wu Wulang couldn't quite understand it. He scratched his head and said, my Yaomei is younger than them. Lu Gui, can it be the same? Miss Man is from a girl's family, and their young master is going to be admitted to the Imperial College. But it is obvious that Wu Wulang can't understand his pride. On the contrary, he is even more proud, because he thinks that Man Bao is younger than them, but he is their senior sister. Now Bai Erlang is Man Bao who is guiding his homework. Wu Wulang didn't write down these gossips in his notebook, he just listened to it for a while, and found that there was nothing to ask, so he got up and asked, aren't you going to tell Bai Shan what you found out? Lu Gui hesitated and said, "Of course I want to tell you, but I just went in to have a look, the young master is still studying, I don't want to disturb you." Wu Wulang looked at the time and said, "It's late today, forget it, I'll tell Man Bao later, let Man Bao tell Bai Shan." Lu Gui breathed a sigh of relief, and said with a smile, "Then I'll thank Wulang first." Wu Wulang nodded, and after entering the second courtyard, seeing Man Bao and the others working hard in the study with the lights on, he turned around to look at Datu and the others. Zhou Lishong also led his two younger brothers and sisters to gallop in the room with the lights on. They write less, and their copying speed is far behind Man Bao, but they have written several volumes now. Lu Liaolang looked at it for a while and said, "Tomorrow morning, I will take a few copies to the inn to have a look. You can copy them at home. If they can be sold, I will come back and take them with you. If they can't be sold, we won't copy them." Zhou Lishong, if you can't sell it, what should you do if you have already copied it? Keep it, just treat it as your calligraphy practice, what else can I do? Zhou Li choked heavily, and Zhou Lejun raised his head and said, "It will definitely be sold, no matter how bad it is, there will be the big exam next year. My sister said that for scholars, there will always be fewer papers, and they will not despise the simple and repetitive papers." Wu Wulang said, "Students are really complicated. That's enough, you can copy 2 more volumes and go to sleep. I will talk to Man Bao." Man Bao had just finished explaining a paragraph to Bai Erlang, waiting for him to understand and recite it, when he turned his head and saw fifth brother dangling outside the window, he put down the book and came out. Wu Wulang said, "I just went to talk to Lu Gui. He doesn't want to come in and disturb you. He asked me to tell you that among the young masters who were called to Beijing, there are 3 very powerful, one is called Peng Zhiruo, one is called Lu Xiafo, and the other is called Ren. But, that Ren K is relatively young, only 2 months younger than Bai Shan. By the way, there is another young master here who is particularly miserable, named Feng Chenxiang." Wu Wulang briefly described Feng Chenxiang's misery. Man Bao stared for a while, seeing that he stopped talking, he raised his head and asked, "No more?" "Gone." Man Bao secretly thought, after going out for a day, "You inquired about 4 people?" Lu Gui, "No, he didn't, obviously everyone found out about it." The next update will be around 8 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 934. Zhou Wulang shortened the 46 people to 4 in a concise manner. Man Bao felt that there was no need to tell Bai Shan and Bai Erlang about it, so when he went back, he saw that they were studying hard and didn't say a word. "Decided to talk about this topic when I have time. Anyway, regardless of whether the opponent is strong or not, they have to go all out before and during the exam. Let's talk about this kind of thing after the exam, inquire about it so that you can get along with your classmates. After all, they were admitted to the Imperial College in the same way." The 4 masters and apprentices studied until late at night. Although Mr. Zhuang felt that the time was tight, he felt that the study efficiency at night was not as good as that in the morning, so he looked at the time and said, "It's past, go wash up and go to bed, start tomorrow read earlier." Bai Shan and Bai Erlang also felt extremely tired after reading for a whole day, so they nodded and got up. Man Bao also got up. Early the next morning, Man Bao was woken up by the sound of reading books outside the window. She got up and went to the window to look out. It was still gray outside, and Bai Shan was standing under a lantern with his hands reciting books. Man Bao turned around and lay down on the bed, wailing with a headache. It was still dark, why did he get up? That being said, it is impossible to sleep when disturbed like this. Man Bao had no choice but to get up to wash, and sat on the railing after a while, yawning and looking at Bai Shan. Bai Shan just finished reciting an article, so he invited Man Bao, "Do you want to recite together?" Man Bao shook his head, "Can't you go to the garden if you recite the book?" Do you have to recite it under my window? Mister is up. Man Bao answered quickly, Sir, you're getting old, you don't feel much. Oh, I'm getting old as a teacher. Man Bao immediately changed his words, Sir, you disturbed me. After he finished speaking, he turned around and found that the husband hadn't gone out, but was holding a book in the window and reading it by the light. As if he had noticed Man Bao's gaze, he raised his head from the book and looked at her. Man Bao turned his head immediately, and said to Bai Shan, Okay, I will recite the book with you. Where is Bai Er? Why don't you call him? I called, but I can't wake up. Bai Shan is under a lot of pressure now, and subconsciously wants to get up early, so he wakes up early in the morning. He came out and walked around, and found that the light was only turned on in the husband's room, but the room of the other two friends was dark, so he knew they were sleeping late. As their junior and senior brother, he felt that it was necessary for him to urge them to study, so he endorsed the book under the window of the two of them, but it seemed that it was only useful for Man Bao. There was not even a sound in Bai Erlang's room. I don't know if he was in a deep sleep, or it was just pretending. Man Bao changed places with him, and the two went to the small garden to endorse. Daji lit a lamp for them, and lit spices to repel mosquitoes at their feet, then found a railing and sat down with his eyes closed. Bai Shan and Man Bao sat facing each other. Man Bao remembered that he had recited the Analects of Confucius just now, and asked, Why do you still recite this instead of University and the Doctrine of the Mean? Learn the new by reviewing the past. I'll go through it first. If there is something I can't remember, read it as soon as possible. Didn't you and your husband both say that most of the scriptures this time are from the Analects? Man Bao nodded, and followed him down the same path just now. By the time they finish memorizing all 20 Analects, it will be done long ago. The two returned to the courtyard from the small garden, just in time to meet Bai Erlang coming out after washing his face. He said, I had a nightmare last night, dreaming that someone kept reading the Analects in my ear, and finally chased me to the cliff on the side. I must follow along. I clearly remembered it, but I just couldn't open my mouth. I was so anxious that I was sweating profusely, but I still couldn't open my mouth. In the end, I couldn't help it. I was thrown to the bottom of the cliff, which was scary. Kill me. Bai Shan. Man Bao laughed out loud when he heard this. Bai Erlang looked at her angrily and said, Why are you laughing? I'm having nightmares and you're still laughing. I guess it must be because you forced me to recite the Analects of Confucius yesterday, so I have such a dream. He looked at the two of them, and saw that there seemed to be dew on their trousers, and couldn't help being curious, Where did you come back this early in the morning? Bai Shan, Yuanzi. What are you doing in the garden early in the morning? Endorsement, Bai Shan said, I've already read the Analects of Confucius today. Bai Erlang wailed when he heard the words, and shouted, You are too sinful, how early do you have to get up? Man Bao, help me later. Man Bao shook his head, I helped you annotate the rest of the Analects of Confucius last night. I drew a circle in front of the words and sentences that need special attention, and you will recite them yourself later. This morning, Mr. I want to give you lectures on strategies and poems. I will go to the pharmacy to sit in the classroom, and I will help you when I come back in the afternoon. Compared with his husband, Bai Erlang obviously wants Man Bao's tutoring more. After all, he faces different pressures. So he looked at Man Bao pitifully, hoping that she could temporarily dismiss her work in the pharmacy. Anyway, they just came to the capital, so it's okay to go to see a doctor a few days later, right? Man Bao ignored him, turned around and went back to the room, and added, I have already promised the patient that I cannot slip my words as a human being, let alone as a doctor. Man Bao put away his back basket, thought for a while, picked up a copy of University and put it in, and decided to help Bai Er think about the Moyi and Tai Jing that might be tested in this book when he had time. Aunt Rong also prepared breakfast. Everyone went out to have breakfast together and then dispersed to copy booklets and review homework. Zhou Wulang also went out with 9 books in his arms, and decided to test the water first. Daji still sent Manbao to the gate of Jishitang. Manbao stepped on the horse stool to get out of the car, turned around and took the pen from Daji's hand. "Go back, and pick me up after noon." Daji bowed his head in response, and watched Manbao enter Jishitang with a basket on his back before turning the carriage and leaving. Shopkeeper Xiao Zheng didn't expect Manbao to come so early, so he hurriedly greeted him and said with a smile, "Why did Dr. Xiao Zhou come so early? The other doctors haven't come yet." Manbao smiled and said, "I'll make some preparations in advance. She will have her own consulting room in the future, so she will naturally come in advance to make some preparations." Shopkeeper Xiao Zheng led Manbao into Dr. Gu's consultation room before, and said with a smile, "Dr. Gu's things were moved there yesterday. From now on, this consultation room will belong to Dr. Zhou." Behind the thick cloth curtain is a consultation table, in front of the table is a stool, and behind it is a chair. There is also a cloth curtain behind the chair, and behind the curtain are 2 small beds separated by a curtain that can be pulled. Manbao was amazed. This configuration is much better than the pharmacy in Yazhu City. In Yazhu City, they all sit outside, and there are only 2 very small rooms in the consultation room, which can only accommodate 1 bed. Only when the disease needs to untie the clothes, or the patient can't sit up, will he be moved to the consulting room. Manbao asked, "Are all the pharmacies in the capital like this?" Shopkeeper Xiao Zheng had never been to other places, so he couldn't understand Manbao's words for a while, so he could only nod in a daze, "Yes." He paused, thinking that Manbao was dissatisfied, so he smiled and said, "If you have any special requirements, Dr. Zhou, you can tell me, and I will make arrangements. See you tomorrow." Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 935. Manbao looked at the interior layout, nodded and said, "This is very good, but I want to change the curtains and the quilt on the bed." Manbao looked around, then pointed to an empty space behind her against the wall and said, "I want to put a shelf here, the kind that can put books and other sundries. It doesn't need to be too high, just go here, make it 3 or 4 grids." Although it was the first time shopkeeper Xiao Zheng heard such a request, he was not surprised by all kinds of requests from the doctors. For example, Dr. Gu likes to drink tea, so he must have a tea set in his room and a small stove for him to make tea daily. So he just froze for a moment and nodded in response. Manbao was satisfied, so she put down her pannier, and took out her pulse pillow, cloth towel, needle bag, etc. She looked around and said, "I still need a stove to boil water." Shopkeeper Xiao Zheng said it was all right, and seeing that she had no other requests, he withdrew and called a waiter, who brought the stove in after a while, and ordered charcoal to boil water by the way. After Manbao tidied things up, the other 3 doctors also arrived. Manbao went out to meet with everyone, and then he wanted to consult some daily patients. They entered the pharmacy and began to queue up to see a doctor. Dr. Gu smiled slightly, nodded with Manbao and said, "Young Dr. Zhou will be busy first, and we will be busy too." Manbao nodded, observed the patients in the lobby, and then went into the room. The patient who opened the curtain and came in saw Manbao sitting behind the consultation table, looking at him with a smile. He hesitated for a moment, then turned around and said, "Doctor, I went by the wrong way." Manbao, who was about to beckon him to sit down, froze for a moment, shrugged his shoulders when he got out, sighed, and muttered, "It's going to start again. It was the same at the beginning when I was in Yazhu City." The patients were a little reluctant when they saw that it was her who saw the doctor. It was because after she saw it, Drg sat next to her and saw it again. Later, she got used to sitting in front of the hall, and so did the patients who came to see the doctor. When it was her turn to see the doctor independently, everyone took it for granted and showed no resistance. Since the free clinic in Chongyang, the number of patients who came to her on their own initiative has increased, and Man Bao has become a doctor worthy of the name, the kind who relies on his own ability. Now it seems that when she arrives in the capital, because of her age and gender, she has to start all over again. Man Bao quickly adjusted her mentality, smiled and waited for the next patient to come in, and then she watched one patient after another open the curtain and come in, and when she saw her, she gave a stiff smile to indicate that she had gone wrong, and finally exited. Man Bao leaned on the table with his elbows, cupped his face in both hands and looked at the door, watching a person come in, then go out, another person came in, and another person exited. The curtain was opened again, and an old lady brought a flush-faced girl into the room. Seeing them, Man Bao's eyes lit up, he put down his hands and sat up straight, and waved with a smile, "Old lady, you are here, please sit down." The old lady said embarrassingly, "Little doctor, it's not me who sees the doctor, but my granddaughter." "I know, there is a stool here, you can sit and wait." The old lady felt that Man Bao was very caring, and sure enough female doctors were different from male doctors. She pulled her granddaughter forward and said with a flattering smile, "This is my granddaughter, she is 13 years old, please show me what is growing on her body." Only then did Man Bao look carefully at the girl, who was about the same age as her, and was standing with a flushed face, but his head, which had been lowered so tightly just now, was slightly raised, and he was quietly looking at Man Bao. Facing Shang Manbao's gaze, she lowered herself down again like an electric shock. It seemed that seeing Man Bao looked about the same age as her, she boldly raised her head to look at Man Bao again. Man Bao smiled at her, waved to her, "Come here and let me have a look." The girl hesitated, but was pulled to the front by the old lady, pushed down on the stool, and even picked up her hand and put it on the examination table. "Look, look." Man Bao gently took her hand, placed it on the pulse pillow, and then turned her head slightly to check the pulse. After listening to the pulse for a while, she looked up at her face and asked, "What's your name?" "My name is Pearl." Man Bao asked, "What's your last name?" The girl looked at her grandmother before whispering, Do Zuer." Man Bao praised, "Good name, how old are you this year?" From what she ate recently, Man Bao asked when she got sick, what she did when she got sick, and asked about everything she ate. After jotting down one by one in his mind, Man Bao opened a notebook and wrote down the basic situation of Do Zuer, then pulled her up, "Come on, let's go behind the curtain, and I'll see what's growing on your body." Do Zuer and Man Bao talked for nearly a quarter of an hour, and they got to know each other a little better. Although they were still flushed, they didn't resist as much as they did at first. She took a look, and saw that the grandmother nodded slightly and followed Man Bao into the curtain, and the old lady was guarding the consultation table. Occasionally, a patient opened the curtain and peeped in. She looked up and said, "I'm still waiting for you, I'm seeing a doctor, waiting." The patient can only shrink back. Man Bao helped Do Zuer untie her clothes, and found that there were rashes on her chest, waist, and abdomen. She looked carefully and found that the rashes on the waist and abdomen were connected together, which seemed to be caused by the rubbing of the clothes. It may also be that the flesh on the waist and abdomen is folded, so there are two creases, the flesh in the creases is almost eroded, and some liquid oozes out. Just looking at Man Bao feels itchy and painful. Man Bao cleaned his hands, touched the rashes with a clean cloth, and asked, "Is it itchy?" "Occasionally it is itchy, but most of the time it's nothing." "When will it itch?" "At night, or when it's quiet." "Besides the rash, where else do you feel itches?" "Sometimes I feel itchy on my back and on my face, but my grandma says I can't scratch it. If I scratch it, I will be disfigured and it will get worse." Man Bao nodded slightly, "Your grandma is right, you can't catch her." Man Bao checked her whole body, and then asked, Did you really not eat anything special on the day you got sick and the day before? Dozuer thought for a while, then shook her head. No, the doctor asked about it when I was seeing a doctor before, so I remember, I ate the same as usual that day. What's the difference? For example, you went to different places and touched different things. Seeing her stunned, Manbao smiled and said, don't be afraid, your illness should be allergies. Although you also have dryness and heat in your body, this large rash should not be eczema, so think about it carefully. Did you go to any special place or encounter any special things that day or the day before? Manbao said, you are lucky, allergies are just rashes. If the respiratory tract is inflamed, it may be fatal, but after so long, your rashes have not improved, but have become more and more serious, which shows that you have been exposed to allergens. That's why you go back and forth. Think about it carefully. Since that day, what things have you been exposed to that you have never touched before? Next update around 4 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 936. Dozuer thought about it seriously. Manbao stood up and said, think about it first, I'll get you some ointment. Manbao returned to the consultation table, nodded to the anxious old lady and said with a smile, it's okay, I'll give you a prescription. There's an ointment here, rub it on in the morning and evening after you go back, and take some medicine to see. Manbao wrote out the prescription, and wrote the name of the medicine on another piece of paper. Give this piece of paper to shopkeeper Xiaozheng, and ask him to send me a box of ointment. Manbao decided to give Dozuer a try first. She took a white cloth and wrapped it around her after wiping the medicine. How about it, did you think about it? Dozuer struggled and said, I really can't figure it out. I didn't do anything that day. I went to play with my friends after breakfast, and then we went to the river bank to play. When we saw a lot of garlic, we dug some at home. My mother said that it was not garlic, it was a weed, and I had to throw it away. It was a pity for me to see it. There happened to be an empty rotten pot at home, so I planted it in the pot, and then it was the same as what my family ate at noon. I went out with my mother to deliver goods, and I haven't been out since I came back. It's the same as usual. Manbao has always been sensitive to plants, so he sat up slightly and asked, a weed that looks like garlic. She thought about it carefully, but couldn't figure out what it was, so she asked, isn't it normal for you to only do this one thing that day? Dozuer nodded, yes. Manbao said, then you ask your family members to move things away, don't put them at home, and don't get close to them. Manbao paused and still couldn't help being curious, is your home far away? Why don't you move here and show me? Dozuer nodded again and again, my home is in the outer city, but it's just outside the square, very close. Manbao put the medicine on her, and said with a smile, I also prescribed a can of ointment for you. You take it back and rub it in the morning and evening, try to rub the rash as little as possible, and come back in 2 days. Give you an injection, and the stuff will go down in a few days. Dozuer blushed and nodded, and asked embarrassingly, is it too much trouble for you? No trouble, I'm a doctor, I should do it. Dozuer quietly breathed a sigh of relief, and asked in a low voice, you became a doctor at such a young age. Manbao smiled and nodded, the teachers are teaching well. After sending Dozuer away, the old lady Do also came back with the medicine. She took a look at Dozuer and saw that her face was fine, so she took her with a smile and thanked Manbao and said goodbye. Manbao repeated what he had just said to Dozuer, and said, I have to find out what she is allergic to, or if the rash is removed with medicine at this time, it will still grow back later. Yes, it went down after taking other doctors' medicines, but it grew back after a few days, and it grew more and more. The old lady Do felt that Man Bao had hit the point, so she decided to send the potted flower when she went back. She said, "The flower bloomed last month, and it looks very beautiful. This child likes it? I went to smell it and smell it again, could it be because the flower is poisonous?" Man Bao said, "Flowers are not necessarily poisonous, otherwise how could you be alright? It may be that they are poisonous to certain people." The old lady asked in a daze, "What do you mean it is poisonous to a specific person? Could it be poisonous to Zuer? People are different. Some people can't eat eggs, and they will develop rashes, some people can't eat persimmons, and they will have diarrhea, this is allergy, and some allergies are even more strange, such as spring catkins. Flying, some people feel uncomfortable breathing when they are stuck, and some people can't smell the fragrance of flowers." Man Bao said, "I see her rashes are large and large, like rashes from allergies." The old lady didn't understand, but she understood one thing, that is, her granddaughter's problems may be caused by the pot of wildflowers at home. The old lady first turned around and nodded Dozuer's head, and muttered, "I told you not to pick up things from outside and go home, but you just didn't listen, so you're suffering now." She said to Man Bao, "Don't worry, Dr. Zhou, I'll go home and bring that pot of wildflowers for you to see." Man Bao just nodded, and the old lady hurriedly dragged Dozuer away. As soon as the patient left, the consultation room became quiet. Man Bao sighed and went back to his seat to sit down. When he sat down, the curtain was lifted, and a middle-aged man came in with the help of an old man. Man Bao behind the desk was stunned for a moment. Man Bao also looked up at them, looked them up and down and asked with a smile, "Are you seeing a doctor? Come and sit down here." The father and son who were hesitating whether to exit paused for a moment, then walked in. The middle-aged man helped his father to sit on the stool, looked at Man Bao cautiously and said, "Show me." Man Bao motioned for him to put his hand up, and asked, "What's wrong?" "Cough," the middle-aged man answered first, "cough day and night." While talking, the old man coughed again. Man Bao glanced at him, and waited for him to finish coughing before asking, "When did you start coughing?" "Just these few days." Man Bao frowned, and said to the middle-aged man, "Go out and wait outside, I'll just ask your father." The middle-aged man hesitated and said hesitantly, "My father is confused. If you have anything to say, you should ask me. If you ask him, he won't be able to explain clearly." Man Bao said with a serious face, "Strangeness is also a disease. In order to make a clear diagnosis, the patient must be asked to answer the questions himself, so don't interrupt." The middle-aged man was dumbfounded, and said for a while, We don't cure the old fool's disease, we just cure the cough." Man Bao then waved his hand and said, "Understood, I don't need to prescribe this kind of medicine for you, but I still have to confirm the condition, you go outside and wait." The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment, seeing Man Bao staring at him, he could only turn around and go out. After he left, Man Bao looked at the old man with a softer gaze, and she asked, "How long have you been coughing?" "It's been a month or so." "Have you ever taken any medicine?" The old man thought about it carefully, then nodded and said, "I took the medicine for 2 or 3 days, but it didn't improve. It doesn't work at all." After thinking for a while, the old man shyly said, "After taking the medicine, I got better. I guessed that the disease would be cured soon, so I stopped taking it. Unexpectedly, I coughed again within 2 days." Man Bao asked, "Is the cough serious? When did you cough a lot?" "At night, sometimes I have to cough all night, and I can't sleep no matter what, and neither can my family members." Man Bao felt his pulse, frowned and asked, "Does your stomach hurt?" "What?" Man Bao got up and walked to him, stretched out 3 fingers and pressed his ribs, he couldn't help but let out a cry of pain, and then coughed again. Next update at 8 p.m. Farmer's blessed girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 937. When Man Bao saw it, she knew it, and she asked, "Where do you live?" "I live outside the city." Man Bao snorted and asked, "Isn't it quite far from outside the city?" The old man said, "Our family collects firewood for others, so I came early today, so I stopped by to see the doctor." Man Bao nodded and said, "Then it is not easy for you to enter the city. How many more medicines shall I prescribe for you?" The old man hesitated and did not speak. Man Bao explained, "Your illness has been dragging on for too long, and you need to change 3 prescriptions to be cured, but I can only prescribe 2 prescriptions for you at most now. 1 prescription has 2 medicines, and 1 medicine takes 2 medicines once in the morning and in the evening. Come back after you have finished taking these 4 medicines, and I will see the effect and give you another medicine." After all, Man Bao thought for a while, and took a pen to write down the prescription. Seeing this, the old man closed his opened mouth. Man Bao handed him the prescription, and said, "Old man, you can't procrastinate this disease any longer. It's best to cure it once, otherwise you have to stop taking the medicine for a while, and it will recur and hurt the roots. You can try to cure it later. It will be difficult." The old man took the prescription and went out. When his son saw it, he frowned and asked, "Why are there 2 prescriptions?" The old man opened his mouth and said, "The doctor gave it." The middle-aged man couldn't understand it, so he could only show it to shopkeeper Xiao Zheng. Shopkeeper Xiao Zheng took a look, then looked up at the 2 of them and said, "Wait a minute." He took the abacus and came out to type, and said after a while, "It's a total of 84 yuan. It's so expensive." Shopkeeper Xiao Zheng said, "This is 4 medicines. Take 1 medicine for 2 days. Come and see after 8 days. "We don't want so many medicines," the middle-aged man immediately said, "just pick up 2 days' worth." Shopkeeper Xiao Zheng shook his head, "This is the medicine prescribed by the doctor. I only take the medicine according to the prescription, and these are 2 prescriptions. 1 prescription is only 2 medicines. Take 1 medicine first and then the other." The middle-aged man talked about the prescription and said, "I'll go and talk to the doctor." After all, he took the prescription and went back to find Man Bao. Man Bao had already received a new patient. He was a man who had a cut in his arm. He just went to the pharmacy. For emergencies, the other doctors had customers, so they stuffed it with her. Although the person who brought the patient was full of doubts when he saw Man Bao, the family members could only shut their mouths when they saw that she picked up the scissors and cut off the man's clothes. Man Bao cut the clothes and looked at the wound. "The cut is a bit big, I'll sew it up after cleaning. Instruct the guy who brought them in to fetch hot water." Seeing Man Bao looking over the wound without changing his expression, the family members turned their heads slightly unwell, and the patient turned pale. "Doctor, is my hand okay?" After the examination, Man Bao comforted, "It's okay, there is no bone injury, and the hand will not be broken, but the wound is a bit big, so you should pay attention to cleaning it after treatment, and you can't eat anything with hair, otherwise the wound will become inflamed, and the hand will not be broken. I don't know if it will be sawed off, it might be my life." Man Bao cleaned his wound with a white cloth, and wiped off the dirt around the wound. Looking at his dark fingers, she was very worried. "You must pay attention to cleaning when you go back." While talking, a middle-aged man squeezed in with a prescription. Seeing so many people in the room, he lost his momentum first. Man Bao raised his eyelids and glanced at him. After telling the patient under his command, he sewed up the wound with a needle and asked him, "Is there anything else?" "Doctor, why did you prescribe 2 prescriptions? Can we only grab 1 prescription? Your father is seriously ill, and time is precious. Isn't your family outside the city? Prescribe a prescription, go home and make another one today, and another one the day after tomorrow. In order to keep taking the medicine, you have to go to the city one day in advance, and start over again. There is a consultation fee for queuing up to get a prescription. Man Bao said, your father has been ill for a long time, and this cough may turn into tuberculosis if it recurs, so get treated as soon as possible. Knowing that you young people are busy, how about I give you the third prescription as well? The middle-aged man immediately said, no, no, let's grab these two prescriptions first. The middle-aged man gave a foolish smile to the others in the room, bowed slightly, and then left. A family member said, you don't want to treat your father? Man Bao raised his head and smiled, it's nothing, his son is very filial, otherwise he wouldn't take his father to the inner city to see a doctor. The family members thought about it, skipped the matter, and began to worry about his arm. Seeing that Man Bao was stitching him skillfully, but it was crooked and unsightly, they couldn't help saying, little doctor, I sewed it up. Are prettier than you. Man Bao said confidently, impossible, sewing people is different from sewing clothes. Her skill was recognized by Imperial Physician Fan, and she practiced it on anthropomorphic patients day and night after seeing Imperial Physician Fan sew Ji Hao. Although she can only sew skin and flesh now, and the internal organs are still a little uncertain, but now the patient only needs her to sew skin and flesh, right? Man Bao retracted the needle perfectly, appreciating her masterpiece and nodding slightly before giving him the medicine. The wounded thought she was a little scary. Man Bao was administering medicine to him, when the shopkeeper Zhengde opened the curtain and came in, little Dr. Zhou, there are trauma patients. As soon as he came in, he saw Man Bao applying medicine, and he also saw the sutured wound. He paused for a moment and then smiled, as expected, I have studied under MRS Fan, Dr. Zhou's stitching is really good. How many rabbits or pig legs have been cut to practice this technique? Man Bao didn't say that he had not only learned medicine from Fan Tai, but also from teacher Mo. However, Mr. Mo is very disdainful of suture in his words. Compared with the surgery, he said, he prefers internal medicine. But Man Bao has never been picky. She thinks that whether it is internal medicine or surgery mentioned by teacher Mo, or ulcer doctor and doctor mentioned by Dr. Fan, she thinks it is good to be able to cure diseases and save lives. Keek also said that Mr. Mo and physician Fan are very strange. It should be said that all human beings are very strange. They are obviously the same people and do the same things, but they divide the things they do into different levels. Man Bao, who is also a human being, was as confused as Keek at first, but after a long time, he gradually understood. But understanding does not mean agreeing. Shopkeeper Zhengde stood aside and watched Man Bao neatly apply the medicine and bandage him up, and then sat down and prescribed the medicine for him. Will you take the medicine yourself? The injured immediately shook his head. What I'm asking is, can your family give you medicine? The wounded man looked up at his brother. His brother looked at it for a while, then struggled and said, Doctor, why don't we come over every day and you change it for him? Okay, then I'll prescribe a pair of medicine for you, and you don't have to come every day. The medicine is changed every other day. The decocted medicine is taken in the morning and evening. One medicine can be decocted for 2 days. See you tomorrow. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 938. Man Bao opened the prescription, and seeing the shopkeeper Zhengde standing aside, he handed the prescription to him first. Would you like to have a look? Shopkeeper Zhengde was a little embarrassed, thinking that Man Bao was not happy. He stood aside and watched, but when the prescription was handed to him, he still took it and looked at it, nodded and said, yes, yes, if I were me, I would also prescribe the same prescription, such a dosage. The patients in the room and their family members breathed a sigh of relief. Although the little doctor looked very skilled, he was really young, and he was still a girl. The shopkeeper Zhengde handed them the prescription, and when they went out, he wanted to get in touch with Man Bao, fearing that she would have a grudge because of what happened just now, but Man Bao was also waiting for them to leave. As soon as they left, Man Bao opened the case book and handed it to the shopkeeper Zheng De, and said happily, "You came just in time. This is the patient I saw early in the morning and the prescription I prescribed. You can see that there is something to improve." The shopkeeper Zheng De paused, and took a careful look at Man Bao, and after confirming that she was really happy, he took the case book. When Dr. Zhou was in Yazhu City, he often gave his case book to others. Dr. C. "That's not true," Man Bao said. "Drg said that the medical record is the patient's privacy and should not be opened by others. Even if I am still studying, I must obey it. So I only give it to shopkeeper, let them guide me." Shopkeeper Zheng De, "What's the difference between that and showing it to everyone? There are only these two doctors in Yazhu City, right? Oh, and Lao Ji's son, Dr. Xiaoji." Shopkeeper Zheng De felt that the child's innocence was worrying. He looked at the 3 thin pages in the case book, and said together, "I think it's all handled well." He paused and said, "It's better than I thought. Even the first 2 cases were handled better than me, but you can just show me this case book in the future, don't show it to others easily." Man Bao replied, "Yes, I will ask the treasurer for advice from now on." Shopkeeper Zheng De chuckled and nodded, "Okay." Shopkeeper Zheng De went out, and saw that the lobby outside was full of people. Some were holding prescriptions and waiting to get medicine, some were waiting to see a doctor, the other 2 clinics in the same row, and even the other one separated by a big medicine cabinet. There were many patients standing outside the side consultation room. Only Man Bao had a large space waiting for a few patients. Apparently, it had already been spread in Jishitang that the doctor in this clinic was a little girl. As soon as shopkeeper Zheng De came out, a patient opened the curtain and went in. Shopkeeper Zheng De glanced at the long queue next to him, couldn't help but stroked his beard and smiled. These patients all underestimated the little doctor inside. In fact, not only them, but he also underestimated it at the beginning. Dr. G and old shopkeeper Zheng wrote to say that she is extremely talented and has several medical books that they have never seen before, all of which are treasures of Xinglin. It is said that the only difference between Zhou Man and a famous doctor lies in age and experience. That's why he tried his best to attract her, but now it seems that the difference in her age and experience is not at all, she is just a little older. Whether it was dealing with Dozuer's case or the father and son just now, she handled it very well. It can be seen that Dr. G taught her very well. It takes more than a doctor to be a good doctor, especially when growing up. Man Bao had few patients, and she obviously knew this, so she was very careful with each patient, gave detailed instructions, and prescribed prescriptions carefully, but it was so detailed that before noon, she still waited for the patient to wait in the doorway. All other patients have been treated. Man Bao looked out for a while, and simply moved a small stool to sit at the door and looked at the patients of the 2 doctors next door. When he saw the disease she was interested in, as soon as the other party entered the room, Man Bao went back to the room with his own. The teapot went over to refill tea for people, and by the way, watched the 2 doctors treat people. However, she had just arrived, she was not familiar with the place, and she was not familiar with them, so she just watched silently for a while, did not interrupt, and did not ask for advice. When she was done, she went out. Seeing her stealing a teacher so above board, Dr. Tao and Dr. Yu were speechless for a while. Man Bao returned to her consultation room, thought for a while, took out a white paper and wrote down 2 cases and prescriptions. She checked the time, and handed the prescriptions to shopkeeper Xiao Zhang. "I want to go home, so I won't disturb Tao Doctor and Dr. Yu. These are 2 cases and prescriptions from the medical books I have read, please pass them on to the 2 doctors. If we have time tomorrow, we can argue the prescription." Dr. Zheng lowered his head to look, and found that one was a symptom of wind cold, and the other was a symptom of children's palpitations. They were both very common diseases, but the prescriptions were slightly different from their usual ones. He felt a little strange. Why did little Dr. Zhou suddenly want to argue with Dr. Tao and Dr. Yu about prescriptions? But what's wrong with the doctor they saw today? Man Bao shook his head and smiled. No, it's just for communication. Didn't the big shopkeeper say that Dru is good at children's diseases, and Dr. Tao is good at treating wind, evil and exogenous diseases? Then you didn't directly show the case and the improved prescription to argue with others, did you? Shouldn't this be due to the reputation, or the need to be dialectical if there is a problem with the treated case? But Man Bao had already turned around and went back to pack the basket and prepare to go home. Shopkeeper Xiao Zhang scratched his head, accepted the prescription, and planned to discuss it with everyone when we had lunch later. Man Bao learned medical skills from DRG, and when he had questions, he would ask him for advice. Mr. Zhuang asked her to copy her medical books and give them to DRG. Whenever DRG asked her about his illness, she would ask her for advice. Teacher, the two of them will find the right prescription and various dialectical articles from the endless books. And Dr. G is becoming more and more dedicated to her. The two of them are not only in the relationship of communication, but also mentor and apprentice to each other, and they are also teachers and friends. Since then, Man Bao has figured out that knowledge is never free, and she has to pay something if she wants to learn something, while feelings are developed in communication, and no one is willing to pay for a single party. Since she just stole from Doctors Ding and Tao, she naturally wants to return something. This is called courteous reciprocity. She gave her knowledge, so next time she wants to sneak into the room to learn secretly, don't be too embarrassed. This back and forth, the friendship will naturally become deeper. Dr. Tao and Dr. Ding didn't know anything about it, and they didn't think so much like Man Bao. As adults, they seldom think about such ways of the world. They were simply dissatisfied with Man Bao coming in to steal his studies, but this dissatisfaction disappeared after receiving the prescription. The two of them clicked on the name of the medicine and the dosage on the prescription, and suddenly realized, so it is, shopkeeper Xiao Zhang, Dr. Xiao Zhou said that she read it from other medical books? I don't know what kind of medical book it is, but there are other prescriptions. Dr. Gu couldn't help but go up to look at it, and shopkeeper Zhengda smiled and sat down at the table. There's no rush to discuss this matter, let's eat first, there are patients waiting outside, we'll talk about it after we're done working for a while. Next update around 4 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 939. The three doctors looked at each other and agreed with a smile. Dr. Tao sat down and asked with a smile, why doesn't Dr. Zhou have lunch here? Shopkeeper Xiao Zhang smiled and said, I called, but Dr. Zhou seems to be in a hurry to go home. Her patient has finished reading, and it's noon, so I'll send someone out. He paused and then said, however, Dr. Zhou ran into the old lady of Dou's family right after he went out. The old lady brought her a pot of grass with a chipped part, and it seemed that it was the reason why Miss Dou had rashes all the time. Thing. Shopkeeper Zhengdan nodded. Man Bao met Ms. Dou just after leaving the gate of the pharmacy. She had been waiting for her for a long time, so she thought it would be okay to see it tomorrow. There were two people in the family waiting for her to help with the study, so she packed up her things. Go home. Unexpectedly, it was such a coincidence that she ran into Ms. Dou just as she was going out. The old lady Dou came up with a pot of well-grown grass, and said in surprise, Dr. Zhou left so soon. Man Bao nodded, I only sit in the hall for half a day every day, is this the potted flower? The old lady Dou nodded, I asked, it's this pot, isn't this the common garlic by the river? It looks like garlic, but you can't eat it? I heard that if you eat it, you will die. The old lady doe said, I haven't seen it before. I only found out after asking. This thing grew up by the river in the past 2 years. Because it looks like garlic and blooms beautifully, people call it Tien Swan. KK was screaming in Man Bao's mind, and Man Bao squatted down to take a closer look, and found that it looked a lot like garlic. Man Bao asked, give me this thing, how much do you want? Hey, there is no need for money for this scourge. Dr. Xiaozhou will take it if he wants it, or I will throw it away. Man Bao nodded and accepted it, but she still found a medicine bag from the back basket and gave it to the old lady doe. This is the medicine bag I made, you take it back to Zhu Er, and let her put it by the bed. It can repel mosquitoes, her rash needs to be ventilated, try not to rub against clothes. In summer, there are many mosquitoes, especially when sleeping at night, it is much more convenient to have this thing. Why is this so embarrassing? Mrs. Doe reached out to take it, and carried it to the car for her with great enthusiasm. Little Dr. Joe, let me help you move it to the car. By the way, what do you want this thing for? Man Bao said seriously, I want to study. It is used for research. Keek told Man Bao, this is called a narcissus, and the flowers it blooms are very beautiful. It showed the picture to Man Bao, and Man Bao understood it at a glance. This picture seems to be taken from paper. Do you have this thing in the future? No, it is recorded in the book as the top 10 famous flowers of ancient humans. They are so beautiful that people in the future can only see them in pictures, Keek said, but according to the information in the encyclopedia, this thing is not difficult to grow. Then why are they still being exterminated? After research, it has been found that the more things that were once flooded, the easier they are to mutate and become extinct in the end. It is difficult to preserve the original genes. Man Bao was very puzzled. Why do you want to preserve the original genes? Didn't teacher Mo say that usually the best ones survive and the ones that disappear are the ones eliminated? Keek, this has to be asked of human beings. Some human beings think that our technology has reached the most bottleneck time, and with the advancement of technology, the species in their world are disappearing or weakening due to various reasons. Illegal radio waves detected, temporarily banned, temporarily banned. Suddenly there was no sound in Man Bao's mind. Coco. Coco didn't respond to her. Man Bao's eyes widened, and he couldn't help calling out, Keek. When Daji heard the voice, he immediately turned around and opened the curtain. Miss Man, what's wrong? Man Bao's face was full of worry, but she didn't say anything to Shang Daji. She shook her head and said, no, it's fine, let's go home. Daji looked around the inside of the car and found nothing unusual, so he frowned and sat back down, but he pricked up his ears and listened carefully to the movement inside the car. Man Bao clenched his fists to cover his mouth, blinked and kept calling KK in his mind. But Keek didn't make a sound at all. Man Bao was full of worry, and didn't know what happened to Keek. But things are in her mind, she can't dig her own brain to find them, can she? And Keek said that it is only the size of a nanometer. She doesn't know how big a nanometer is, but since it is smaller than a meter, it must not be big. I have to find such a thing in my mind. Man Bao imagined that physician Fan cut her head open with a knife, and then rummaged through her mind for something like a grain of millet. Man Bao shuddered and told herself that even if she found Keek, she didn't know how to fix it. Keek said that it would repair itself, so it's better to keep it in her head, at least she still can hear it moving. But right now I can't even hear anything. Man Bao returned to Changqing Lane with a sad face. Bai Shan had just finished his first stage of study. He was twisting his back in the yard to rest his mind. Seeing Man Bao's sad face, he stopped his movements and ran up to ask, are you suffering from an intractable disease, or is it a bitter summer? Neither Man Bao hesitated to speak, remembering what Keek said, not to tell the second person about it, and then swallowed the words back. Seeing that she just opened her mouth and didn't speak, Bai Shan asked curiously, "You have caused trouble, why are you still hiding something?" Man Bao tried his best to think about it in his head, but he didn't dare to ask Mr. Bai Erlang for fear that he would be too smart to detect it, so he didn't dare to ask Bai Erlang, that big mouth spread throughout the yard. Man Bao looked at Bai Shan and thought for a while, then pulled him aside. "I ask you a question, but you are not allowed to tell others." Bai Shan nodded. "You ask." Man Bao looked at him, turned around and said, "Forget it, I'll think about it myself." After that, he turned and left with his backpack on his back. Bai Shan. Daji reported the pot of daffodils. "Miss Man, your flowers." Man Bao turned around to embrace the flowers. She carried the flower back to her room, put it on the table, put down the basket and stared at it desperately, and kept saying in her mind, "Record, record. There is no sound in my head." Man Bao stared sadly at Hua in a daze, and suddenly remembered something. She widened her eyes slightly. Keek disappeared. What about the things she put in the system? Where is her money? Just thinking this way, Man Bao saw something in the system. She blinked, entered the system, took a piece of silver ingot, and shouted, "KK." Coco was silent. Man Bao couldn't help pinching his waist and raised his head, shouting, "KK." A line of words popped up in the middle of the system. "A virus program has been derived from the system 0531. It is currently being scanned and eliminated. We can only keep silent for the time being. During this period, the recording function is suspended. The mall and system space are open normally. Please help the host of system 0531. Take care of yourself." Man Bao was stunned for a moment and said, "How could Keek have a virus? Did you make a mistake?" 3 words floated in the middle, "No mistake." Then there is nothing to talk about Manbao. No matter what Manbao calls it, there will be no changes in the system. Only then did Manbao look at the things in the system and ponder. The next update will be around 6 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 940. Keek has been with her since Manbao was naive. To Manbao, Keek's existence is not only like a parent and friend, but also like another self in his mind. Although Keek said very little, after 10 years, Manbao also learned a lot through communication and speculation. She knew that if Keek wanted to exist, she had to be alive, and his points had to be positive after death, so that he could return to his world, and then be assigned tasks. She also knew that Keek couldn't harm her, otherwise it would be destroyed if it was judged to have murdered its host. She also knows that there is a main system on Keek's head, which regulates its behavior, just like the Dajin law regulates the behavior of Dajin people. If it violates it, it will have to pay a heavy price. There are many things that Keek cannot tell her, such as how it is made, and many situations in that world. In the end, Keek was very afraid of being destroyed. Although it never said it, Man Bao guessed that if the system was destroyed, it would be the same as a person dying. There would be nothing left, everything would return to zero, and there would be no more of it in this world. Exists, and there may not even be a record of it. Man Bao felt that this was a terrible thing. She knows what a virus is, she has seen it in the encyclopedia, occasionally chatting with teacher Mo and DRD, they will talk about it. The virus Mr. Mo said is a biological virus, while the virus DRD said is a virus in the virtual world. They seem to be very powerful. Every time they appear, they will cause panic among intelligent creatures, because they will kill people. Keek is not a human being, it is a high-tech product. If it is a virus, shouldn't she be the one who gets hurt? All the books in the encyclopedia have said that viruses may disrupt brain waves through in-body technology products, and may cause brain death. But now she can enter and exit the system without saying anything, but Keek's consciousness is gone. Man Bao felt a little panicked, which made her panic like another self being locked up. Man Bao sat down and thought about it seriously, and finally put all the silver in the system space into the Tengzu box, then carefully moved it outside, and pushed it under the bed. Her money, sixth brother's money, Li Jun's money. After the money was stuffed under the bed, Man Bao looked at the books in the system space and worried. She bought these books in the encyclopedia, and occasionally took them out to read after printing, but she never showed them to others. Although the characters are their own, and the typesetting is according to their world, some books are really not suitable for people to see. Because some things are written that really do not conform to the cognition of this world. Man Bao scratched his head. After all, he was reluctant to put so many books in the space system, so he flipped the clothes cabinet upside down, folded some clothes and put them on the inside of the bed, and then began to put them in the cabinet. Book. It was piled up high, and when it was full, Man Bao stuffed many books into the pile of clothes on the side of the bed. It was really impossible to hide them, so Man Bao took a regretful look at the books in the system space. Man Bao sat on the edge of the bed sweating profusely, and wiped his sweat with a sigh. Zhou Lejun poked his head in from outside the screen. "Sister-in-law, what are you doing indoors on such a hot day?" Man Bao moved his butt to block her gaze, shook his head and said, "I didn't do anything, I just thought about something." "Mister is calling you." "I see, I'll come right away." Man Bao got up and went out, and said to Zhou Lejun, "Li Jun, don't come into my house." Zhou Lejun glanced at the daffodils on the table, and found that they looked like garlic, but they didn't look like garlic, they looked like green onions. She knew it must be my sister-in-law and she didn't know where she got it from. She shook her head and agreed, but she still said, "Sister-in-law, you have to plant flowers in the yard, not in the house, they are everywhere." Mud. Only then did Man Bao remember the daffodils still on the table, and hurriedly agreed. When Zhou Lejun went out, she put down the mosquito net to cover the bed, and was about to go out with the daffodils in her arms, but after thinking about it, she turned around and hung up the net. If something goes wrong, there must be a demon, so she shouldn't be so stupid to do such a deceitful thing. Although I am worried about hanging up the mosquito net, it is better than putting down the tent that makes people feel suspicious at first glance, right? Man Bao took the flower pot out and put it in the shadow of the wall. Keek can't contact her now, so there is no rush for the potted flower. Aunt Rong made lunch, and Zhou Lejun helped to bring it up. The newly hired helper could only stay in the kitchen at the back, and could not come to the place where they study and live. Mr. Zhuang sat on the main seat, looked at the sullen Man Bao. "What's the matter, why are you unhappy when you come back?" Man Bao shook his head, changed the subject and said, "Sir, after dinner, shall I continue to teach their junior brother Mo Yi?" "Don't worry, take a rest after dinner, take a nap for a quarter of an hour, and wake up again. In the afternoon, we will talk about poetry and prose." Mr. Zhuang glanced at Man Bao, knowing that children are getting older and it is difficult to manage them, especially this one. She was still a female disciple, so she didn't ask any more questions, but followed her topic and said, "I have drawn up a few topics for the teacher, and you all can come up with them. I will give you a reference." Man Bao only likes reciting poems and listening to other people's poems, but he doesn't like composing. He asked, "Should I also compose?" "Yes, you have to do it too." Mr. Zhuang said with disgust, "If you don't work hard, your third junior brother will soon catch up with you." "Bai Erlang, sir, didn't you say that my poems are very spiritual?" "Well, even if you have no muscles, bones, and flesh, it's fine if you don't know how to use illusions, and there are many problems with the choice of words and sentences." Bai Shan and Man Bao bowed their heads happily. Mr. Zhuang turned his head to see it and said, "Don't laugh, you are still far behind, you have to study hard, you know." He said, "People say that poems and prose can reveal aspirations, and those who write good poems must be good people. If you want to become famous in the future, you must do well in this poem and prose, especially Bai Shan and Bai Er. If you want to be an examiner, you have to write poems and submit papers. Bai Shan said, Sir, I don't want to submit a test. If you don't submit the test, I'm afraid no one will know you. No one will know you. No matter how well you answer the exam, you won't get a good ranking. Bai Shan, even if I have to vote, I want to vote for the most powerful person in the world. Man Baozhong said after the meal, isn't that the emperor? He is the most powerful in the world. Mr. Zhuang stroked his beard and said with a smile, if your poems and essays can be cast in front of the emperor and get his praise, then you will be famous. Bai Erlang said, when County Magistrate Yang or Tang County Magistrate returns to Beijing, I will vote for them. Everyone. Man Bao couldn't help but gave him a thumbs up, your way is good. Sir, I don't need to vote. Mr. Zhuang said with a straight face, you don't need to submit papers to learn well. How can you be picky when you are learning? Okay, Man Bao reluctantly agreed. See you tomorrow.